The forest was quiet that evening, too quiet. The air was heavy and the alien village rested in silence. Smoke from small cooking fires rose into the sky. Children laughed and played near the edge of the huts. The villagers felt safe. But the silence of the forest was not natural. Something dark was moving between the trees. A young human boy, far from his own people, walked along the path with cautious steps. He had been living among the aliens for only a short time. Most treated him as an outsider, a stranger who did not belong. Yet he stayed, searching for a place where he could be useful. His heart was restless, his mind heavy with memories of loss. At the same time, a small alien girl walked near the stream to collect water. She was young, fragile, and often ignored by her people. Her arms carried the heavy jar and her steps were slow. She glanced at the shadows of the forest and felt uneasy. Her heart whispered danger, but she pushed the thought away. She only wanted to finish her task before nightfall. Then it happened. A low growl rolled through the trees. The ground trembled as a great beast pushed out from the shadows. Its fur was dark, its eyes burned with hunger, its fangs dripped with saliva, and its claws dug deep into the soil. The alien girl froze, fear gripping her body like chains. The jar slipped from her hands and shattered on the rocks. The beast roared, shaking the air. The villagers looked up from their fires, screams rising as they saw the monster. Some ran for cover, others shouted warnings, but no one moved to protect the girl. She stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. Her small voice trembled, but no cry escaped her lips. The human boy saw it all. His heart pounded as he saw the beast charging toward her. He did not think. He did not weigh the danger. He only moved. His legs carried him faster than ever before. His voice tore through the air as he shouted, "Run!" But the girl's legs would not obey. She stumbled and fell, her small body shaking. The beast leapt, claws reaching for her. The boy hurled himself forward, his body slamming between her and death. Fangs ripped into his shoulder, claws tore. Across his chest, his scream rang out. But he did not step aside. Blood splashed across the ground, red against the soil. The alien girl gasped, staring at him in shock. She could not understand why a human, a stranger, would give his life for hers. His eyes burned with pain, yet his arms wrapped around her. He shielded her with his own body as the beast slashed again. The villagers cried out, some calling for weapons, others too afraid to move. The scene was chaos. Firelight flickered against the beast's dark fur as it struck again and again. The boy's body bent under the blows, but he did not let go of the girl. He whispered through blood-stained lips, "Stay down." Finally, shouts rose from the men of the village. Spears and blades flashed in the firelight. They rushed forward, striking at the beast. The creature roared in anger, turning. Its head toward the attackers, it slashed at them, but together they drove it back, step by step. They pushed the monster into the shadows until it vanished once more into the forest, its roar echoing long after. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breaths of the villagers. The boy lay on the ground, blood flowing from his wounds. The alien girl knelt beside him, tears falling freely onto his face. Her hands trembled as she tried to stop the bleeding. She whispered, Why did you save me?" The boy's eyes were heavy, his body weak, yet his lips curled into a faint smile. His answer was soft but clear, "Because no one else would." Then his eyes closed, and his body went limp. The villagers stood in shock, whispering among themselves. Some looked ashamed for not acting sooner. Others looked at the human with new eyes. The chief of the village stepped forward, his shadow tall in the firelight. He stared down at the boy, his face unreadable. The alien girl clung to the boy's hand, refusing to let go. Her tears fell on his pale skin as she cried out, "Please don't let him die." The chief finally spoke, his deep voice carrying across the silent crowd. "This boy is no ordinary outsider." His eyes narrowed, full of thought and judgment. His fate will be decided, and in that moment the boy's blood bound him to the alien village forever, though whether as a hero or as a sacrifice no one yet knew. The night air was heavy. After the beast attack, smoke from the fires drifted upward, carrying the smell of fear. The villagers whispered in small groups, their voices tense. Some stared at the human boy who lay bleeding on the ground, while others avoided looking at him at all. To them, He was an outsider, a stranger. But tonight he had done what none of them had dared to do. The alien girl remained by his side, her small hands pressing against his wounds. Her tears would not stop. Her whispers trembled through the dark. "Please hold on. Don't leave me." She had never known such kindness, never seen anyone fight like that for her. The boy was pale, his breath shallow, but still his hand weakly gripped hers. The chief ordered the boy carried into a hut. The elders followed, speaking in sharp voices. Some said the boy should be left to die. Others said the gods must have sent him. The chief's face was hard and unreadable. His eyes watched the boy with suspicion, as if trying to see deeper than flesh. Inside the hut, firelight flickered against the boy's broken body. His chest rose and fell with effort. His shoulder was torn, his skin marked by claws. The alien girl stayed close, refusing to leave. She wiped his forehead and whispered softly. The healers shook their heads, saying the wounds were too deep. But the boy did not let go of life. Somewhere inside his heart, a fire still burned. He opened his eyes and whispered weakly, "Is she safe?" The alien girl's tears fell harder as she nodded. "Yes, you saved me." He gave a faint smile, then drifted back into sleep. His courage lived even in the shadow of death. The elders gathered outside, debating fiercely. One said, "This human interfered with the law. Outsiders must not meddle with our lives," another argued. "But he bled for her. Would any of us have done the same?" Their words clashed like swords, dividing the village. Children peeked from behind their parents, whispering in awe. To them, the boy was not just an outsider, he was a hero. The younger warriors spoke quietly of his bravery, comparing it to the legends of old. Yet others frowned, saying his presence would only bring more danger. As night deepened, the alien girl sneaked back into the hut. The boy stirred, opening his eyes once more. His voice was hoarse, but he asked, "Why are you still here?" She answered softly, "Because you stayed for me." She told him how no one had ever risked themselves for her before. She had always felt alone, ignored, too weak to matter. But he had proved she was worth saving. The boy's gaze softened. His voice was faint but strong in meaning. "Long ago I lost someone to a beast. I was too slow, too weak. I swore I would never stand still again. Not if I could save someone." The girl's heart trembled at his words. She understood his pain, and she felt a bond stronger than words forming between them. Outside, the whispers continued. The villagers could not sleep. The boy's actions had shaken something deep inside their hearts. The courage of a stranger was forcing them to question their own silence. Near midnight, the chief returned. He stood at the doorway of the hut, watching the girl and the human. His eyes glowed with the firelight. His presence filled the room. With tension, he saw how the girl held the boy's hand, how she cared for him with pure devotion. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. But then it was gone. The chief's voice rumbled low. "At dawn, the gathering will decide his fate." The girl gasped, "But he saved me. He is innocent." The chief looked at her firmly. "The law does not care for feelings. Outsiders who interfere must face judgment." Then he turned and walked into the shadows of the night, leaving silence behind. The girl trembled, her heart torn between fear and hope. She whispered to the boy, "I will not let them hurt you. I will stand with you." He opened his eyes for a moment and whispered back, "Then I am not alone." His grip tightened weakly around her hand. The hut grew quiet, but outside the wind howled through the trees, carrying the echo of the beast's roar. The village could not rest, for they all knew something had changed tonight. The courage of one human boy had shaken their laws, their hearts, and their future. And as the firelight dimmed, the chief's shadow stretched long across the village, carrying the weight of judgment that would soon fall. The sun rose slowly over the alien village. Its light touched the roofs of the huts and spilled across the fields. But the air was not calm. The night had left behind whispers, doubts, and fear. At the center of the village, people gathered, waiting for the chief to speak. The human boy still lay weak inside the healer's hut, his body wrapped in bandages, His breaths were shallow, yet he was alive. The alien girl stayed close, her small hands never leaving his side. When the chief finally appeared, silence spread across the villagers like a cold wind. He was tall, his face carved by years of battles and decisions. His voice was deep and steady as he raised his hand. Today we speak of the outsider, the human who bled for one of us. His words carried weight, for his judgment was law. The elders stepped forward. Their voices were sharp. The law is clear. Outsiders cannot interfere in our struggles. To act without the chief's blessing is to insult our ways. Another elder added, if we allow this human to stay, he will bring trouble. He will break the order we have lived by for generations. But others argued back. A younger warrior shouted, he faced the beast when none of us moved. He showed more courage than many here. Is such bravery a crime? The villagers murmured in agreement. The village was split in two. Between fear of the old law and respect for the boy's courage, the chief listened to all sides. His expression never changed. His eyes moved toward the hut where the boy rested. The alien girl emerged from the doorway, her face pale but her voice strong. She walked into the circle and stood before the chief. Her hands trembled, yet she lifted her chin. He saved me. Without him, I would be dead. If you call that a crime, then punish me too. Gasps rose from the crowd. Many stared at the girl in shock. She was young and fragile, often ignored. Yet now she stood against the chief himself. Her courage stirred something in the hearts of the people. The chief's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, towering over her. You speak boldly, child. But you do not understand the law. It was written so that no stranger could change the path of our people. No outsider may act as one of us. The boy stirred inside the hut. His weak voice called out, I will not beg for mercy. Slowly, painfully, he rose and stepped outside. His legs shook, blood seeping through his bandages, but his eyes burned with fire. He stood before the chief, his voice low but steady. If I had to choose again, I would still protect her. The villagers fell into silence. They had never heard such words from a human. The chief studied him carefully. His face betrayed nothing, but his mind turned. He saw the boy's wounds, his pale face, and the girl's desperate grip on his hand. An elder snarled, he defies us even now. He admits he would break the law again. We cannot allow this. But another warrior stepped forward. Perhaps the law has grown old. Perhaps we are the ones who have forgotten true courage. His words struck the crowd and murmurs spread once more. The chief raised his staff and all voices fell silent. His words thundered across the gathering. Enough, the law must speak. Tonight under the fire we will hold the judgment gathering. All will witness and the truth will be decided. The outsider will face the weight of our law, and no one will question it again. The villagers bowed. Their heads, some in fear, some in sorrow. The alien girl clung tighter to the boy's arm, whispering, do not give up. The boy gave her a faint smile, though his body trembled with pain. I will not, he answered softly. As the crowd began to scatter, the chief stood alone for a moment, his eyes locked on the boy, and for the first time a shadow of doubt crossed his face. He remembered battles of the past when no one had dared to step forward for the weak. But this human, broken and bleeding, had done so without hesitation. When night came, the fire would burn high and the fate of the boy would be sealed before every eye. Whether he would be honored, cast out, or worse, none could say. The only truth was that the law was about to be tested, and the heart of the village would be tested with it. Night fell heavy over the alien village. The fires burned low, casting long shadows across the huts. The air was tense, every heart weighed by the coming judgment gathering. The human boy rested in the healer's hut, his body weak, yet his spirit refused to break. The alien girl stayed close, her hand never leaving his, her eyes full of fear, but also fierce. With determination outside, the village whispered. In the corners, near the fires, in the shadows, people spoke quietly of what had happened. Some said the boy was dangerous, that his courage would invite more trouble. Others said he was the kind of strength they had not seen in generations. Children whispered of him like he was a hero from their stories. a stranger who fought for them while their own froze in fear. The girl's mother tried to pull her away from the hut, saying, "You must not risk yourself for him. The chief's law is unbending. You will only bring pain upon yourself." But the girl shook her head, her voice breaking but firm. "He gave his blood for me. I cannot abandon him." Her mother's eyes softened, but she turned away in silence. Inside the hut, the boy stirred. His eyes opened to the flickering fire. He saw the girl watching over him, her face pale from exhaustion. "Why do you stay?" he whispered. She answered without hesitation, "Because you stayed for me. You bled for me when no one else would. I cannot leave you now." Her words struck him deep. His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then I am not alone." The girl leaned closer, speaking softly. "I know they will judge you, but I will speak for you. I will not let them harm you." The boy's voice was weak but steady. "Do not risk yourself. They may turn against you too." She shook her head. "Then let them. I would rather fall beside you than live with silence." Her courage lit a fire in his chest, stronger than any medicine. The night deepened. A shadow passed outside the hut. The boy's eyes narrowed. He knew someone was there, watching. The girl turned quickly, but the figure moved away into the darkness. The sound of a staff against the ground echoed faintly. It was the chief. He had been standing there, listening, his face unreadable, his thoughts hidden. Elsewhere in the village, arguments rose among the warriors. One said, "We should not let the chief decide alone. This boy has earned a place. Among us?" Another growled. "He broke our law. If we bend it now, the law will mean nothing. Are we to change because of one human?" Their voices clashed until the elders ordered silence, but the tension only grew stronger. The alien girl returned to the boy. She told him of the whispers outside. Some wanted him punished. Some wanted him honored. "They are afraid," she said. "But I am not. I believe in you." The boy's gaze softened. "I am only one person, wounded and weak. Why do you believe in me?" She answered simply. "Because you chose to bleed for someone you did not know. That is not weakness. That is strength." The boy closed his eyes, remembering. He thought of the person he once lost to a beast, the moment that shaped his vow. "I could not save her," he whispered, "but I saved you. That is enough for me." The girl squeezed his hand tighter, tears in her eyes. "It is more than enough. It is everything." As the fires outside burned lower, the chief sat alone in his hut, his staff resting across his knees, his eyes closed, but his mind was heavy. He had seen courage before, but rarely like this. The boy had broken the law, yet he had also shown the heart of a true warrior. The chief wondered if the law itself had become a cage that stopped his people from seeing truth. The forest outside growled again, a sound deep and low. The beast had not gone far. Its shadow loomed in the dark, hungry and waiting. But the villagers did not yet know. Their thoughts were fixed on the trial to come, not the danger that crept nearer. As the night stretched on, the girl whispered to the boy, "Tomorrow they will judge you, but tonight I will not leave you." He whispered back, his voice faint but sure, "Then tonight I have peace." They sat together, surrounded by silence, holding to hope as the dark pressed in. Unseen, the chief stood once more in the shadows outside the hut, his eyes fixed on the boy and the girl, his heart torn between the law of the ancestors and the truth before his eyes. The night was heavy with whispers, and the weight of his decision pressed, like a stone upon his soul. The next night arrived, and the village was alive with firelight. Torches lined the wide circle where the people gathered. Their shadows stretched tall against the huts. The air was thick with smoke, fear, and curiosity. Everyone came, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. For tonight, the law would be spoken, and the fate of the human boy would be decided. The chief stood tall in the center, his staff planted firmly in the ground. His expression was stern, his voice carried strong. "Tonight we judge the outsider. He shed blood for one of us, but the law forbids strangers to interfere. The question is this: will his courage free him, or will his defiance condemn him?" The crowd murmured at his words, tension burning in their hearts. The boy was brought forward. He leaned on a wooden staff to walk, his body weak and wrapped in bandages, yet his eyes were sharp. The alien girl was at his side, holding him steady. Her small frame looked fragile, but her spirit glowed with fire. She would not leave him, not tonight. The elders sat in a half-circle behind the chief. Their faces were carved with disapproval. One elder rose and shouted, "He broke our law. His act cannot be excused. If we let him go unpunished, then all our laws will lose meaning." The villagers muttered, some nodding in agreement. But another voice rose from the crowd, a young warrior. "He bled for us when—" No one else moved. He faced the beast with nothing but his own body. Would any of us dare to do the same? If that is a crime, then our courage has already died. His words stirred the people. Some clapped their hands against their spears. Others shouted in support. The chief raised his hand, silencing them. He turned to the human boy. "Speak, outsider. Why did you do this? Why would you risk your life for one not of your kind?" The circle grew silent, even the fires seemed to pause. The boy's voice was low but steady. "Because she deserved to live. Because no one should die while others stand still, I did. What I had to do, I would do it again, even if it cost me everything." His words struck deep into the hearts of those listening. Many lowered their eyes in shame, remembering how they had stood frozen when the beast attacked. The alien girl stepped forward. Her voice shook but carried strength. "If he is guilty, then punish me too. For I was the reason he bled. I will not let him stand alone." Gasps filled the circle. Children clutched their mothers. Warriors whispered among themselves. Never before had someone so young spoken against the law with such defiance. The chief's eyes narrowed. His staff struck the ground with a heavy sound. "Enough. The law is older than all of us. It cannot bend for feelings." But even as he spoke, his gaze lingered on the boy's wounds and his mind turned with doubt. The villagers began to shout. Half demanded punishment, half demanded honor. Their voices clashed like a storm. Some cried, "Cast him out," while others cried, "Make him one of us." The circle shook with division. The chief's face darkened. He lifted his staff high. His voice thundered, "Silence, the law will be spoken by me alone." The crowd fell still, their eyes fixed on him. The firelight flickered in his stern gaze. He looked at the boy, then at the girl beside him, then at the villagers divided before him. For the first time, the chief hesitated. His words did not come quickly. He was a man who had never doubted the law, yet tonight he felt its weight pressing hard against his chest. Finally he spoke. "The law says outsiders who interfere must be judged. But tonight I see courage greater than fear. I see blood spilled. Not for power, not for greed, but for protection. That cannot be ignored." The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the final word. Before the chief could finish, a sound ripped through the night. A roar rolled from the forest, deep and furious. The beast had returned, larger, angrier, its eyes burning red in the firelight. The villagers froze once more, their judgment interrupted by terror. The boy's grip tightened on his staff. His body trembled, but he stepped forward. The alien girl clung to him, her voice breaking. "You cannot fight again. You will die." But his eyes burned with the same fire as before. "Then I will die standing," he whispered. The chief lowered his staff slowly, his eyes locked on the boy. In that moment, the law was no longer the only weight on his shoulders. The survival of the village hung in the balance, and as the beast roared again, the crowd knew. Judgment would not wait for words, it would come in blood, fire, and courage. The roar of the beast rolled through the night like thunder. The villagers turned in terror, their faces pale in the firelight. Children cried, mothers pulled them close. Warriors gripped their spears but did not move. For the second time, the creature had come, larger, angrier, hungrier than before. Its eyes burned red, and its fangs dripped with hunger. The human boy stood weakly at the edge of the circle, his body wrapped in bandages, his staff shaking in his grip. Blood still stained his skin from the last attack. Yet when the beast stepped forward, he did not step back. The alien girl clung to his arm, her eyes wide with fear. "You cannot fight. You will die." she whispered. But he answered only with silence, his eyes locked on the monster. The chief raised his staff. His voice boomed across the circle. Stand together. But the villagers hesitated. Their hearts remembered fear. Remembered how the boy had faced the beast alone before, and many stepped back instead of forward. The chief's eyes flashed with anger. He had led these people through storms, through famine, through wars, but now their courage faltered. The beast roared again, charging. The ground shook with its weight. In that moment the boy shouted, "With me," and ran forward. His legs trembled, but his heart burned stronger than his pain. The alien girl cried out. But she did not let him go. She picked up a fallen spear and followed close. The chief watched them, his chest heavy. This human, broken and bleeding, showed more honor than half his warriors. And the girl, small and fragile, showed more spirit than many grown men. The chief's hand tightened on his staff. His mind turned. The law said the human should be judged, but the truth was plain before his eyes. The boy was not a danger. He was a light his people had lost. The beast struck with claws like blades. The boy lifted his staff, blocking with all his strength. The wood cracked. His arms shook. He stumbled but did not fall. The alien girl thrust the spear, cutting the beast's side. It roared in rage, swiping toward her. In that instant the boy threw himself between them again, taking the blow, his body bent under the strike. Yet he held his ground. The villagers gasped. Some cried out, "Help them!" Others still trembled. But slowly, one by one, warriors stepped forward. Their shame pushed them, their hearts stirred by the sight of the boy's defiance. Spears lifted, shields raised, they joined him, their voices rising in a war cry. The chief struck his staff to the ground. His voice thundered, "Fight! Fight as one!" His eyes burned with decision. The law could wait. Judgment could wait. Survival and honor demanded action. He lifted his own blade, shining in the firelight, and charged into the fray. Together they struck. Spears cut the beast's flesh. Shields pushed against its weight. The boy stood at the center, his staff broken, but his hands wrapped around a spear now. His body weak, but his spirit unyielding. The alien girl stayed close, striking when she could, refusing to hide. The beast roared, blood running down its side. It struck with fury. But for the first time it faced not one, but many. And at their center stood a human who would not bend. The fight shook the ground, echoing through the forest. Finally, with a final strike from the chief and the boy together, the beast stumbled. It crashed against the earth, its roar fading into silence. The night was still again, but the village was changed forever. The people stood breathless, staring at the fallen monster. Their eyes turned to the boy, bloodied, broken, but still standing. The alien girl supported him, her small hands holding his arm as though he were the strongest warrior alive. The villagers began to shout his name, their voices rising like thunder. Chief raised his staff high, his voice rang across the circle. "Hear me. This boy is no outsider. His blood is our blood. His courage is our courage. From this night he belongs to us." The crowd roared in agreement. The law was broken, or perhaps it was remade. The boy swayed, his body weak. The girl whispered to him, tears shining in her eyes, "You are one of us now." He gave a faint smile, whispering back, "No, I am only myself, but I will fight for you." She held him tighter, her heart full. The chief watched them both. His decision had been made. The law was not destroyed. It had grown. Tonight, he had chosen not tradition, but truth. And in doing so, he had bound the human's fate with his people's forever. But as the fire crackled and the cheers rose, the chief's eyes turned to the dark forest. He knew the beast had not come alone. He knew other trials waited. Beyond the trees, the boy's courage had saved them tonight, but it would also bring storms yet to come. The beast's body lay still on the ground, its dark blood seeping into the soil. The air was filled with smoke and the smell of battle. The villagers stood frozen, their weapons lowered, their hearts pounded with disbelief at what they had just witnessed. For the first time in many years they had stood together, and at the center of it all was not one of their own, but the human boy. He stood swaying, blood dripping from his wounds, his bandages torn, his chest heaving. The alien girl held him tightly, Her small frame pressed against his side to keep him steady. Her eyes were full of tears, but her voice was strong. "You did it, you saved us all." He gave her a faint smile, his lips pale. "Not alone," he whispered. "Never alone." The chief stepped forward, his staff striking the earth. His voice rang clear across the silent circle. "This boy has given his blood twice for us. He has faced the beast not once but twice, and still he stands. He has done what many feared to do. Tell me, people, is he still an outsider?" The villagers roared back as one, "No." The chief lifted his hand, his eyes hard but shining with respect. "Then hear me. By my judgment, he is no longer a stranger. He is one of us. His courage binds him to our people. His fate is tied to our future." The words carried like thunder, breaking the chains of the old law. The villagers began to chant, their voices rising. They shouted the boy's name, their cries echoing into the night. For the first time, they saw him not as a danger, not as an outsider, but as a brother. The alien girl's heart swelled with pride. She looked at him and whispered, "You belong here now." He shook his head softly, his voice faint but true. "I belong where you are." Her cheeks flushed and she held him tighter. The chief placed his hand on the boy's shoulder, his eyes grave. "You carry scars now, scars that will never fade. They are marks of honor, but also reminders of the burden you bear. Courage is not free, boy. It costs blood, it costs soul, and tonight you have paid." The boy met his gaze and nodded weakly. "If courage is the price, then I will pay it again." The villagers lit torches high, filling the night with blazing light. They carried the boy and the girl through the circle, chanting louder. Their fear had turned to fire. Their shame had turned to pride. For once, they remembered what it meant to stand as one. But in the chief's heart, shadows still lingered. He knew the beast was not alone. He knew the forest hid greater dangers, and now the boy's bravery had drawn a line in fate. The world beyond would hear of this night, of the human who bled for aliens, of the chief who bent the law for truth, and not all would rejoice. Some would come to test that bond, to break it. In the quiet after the cheers, the alien girl sat with the boy near the fire. She cleaned his wounds carefully, whispering, "You gave everything. You almost lost your life for me. Why?" The boy's eyes softened, his voice weak but certain. "Because your life matters. Because no one should ever stand alone against the dark." She pressed her forehead gently against his, whispering, "Then I will never leave you." The night grew still, the stars shining above. The villagers sang old songs of victory. But their voices carried new meaning, for those songs were no longer only about themselves, but about the human who had stood when they had faltered. The chief looked at the fire, his staff resting at his side. His thoughts were heavy, but a strange hope stirred within him. Perhaps the law had not been broken. Perhaps it had been reborn. For the boy had shown them what courage truly meant. And courage, above all, was the law that could not die. The boy closed his eyes, his body finally giving in to exhaustion. The alien girl leaned against him, guarding his rest with fierce devotion. Her small voice whispered into the flames, "You will live. You must live, because this is only the beginning." The fire cracked. The beast's shadow burned away, and the village was forever changed. One human boy had stood against fear, and in doing so, had changed not only his fate but the fate of an entire people. And as the chief stared into the dark forest, he knew the truth. The fate of the brave was never easy, never gentle. But tonight, a new story had begun, and it would echo far beyond their village, carried by blood, by fire, and by the courage of one human heart.